Feel good, huh?
Yeah, it's gonna be all right. Hey, Whitlow!
Brandon Spivey, and welcome back to the Mark Out Movie Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Aaron was doing this, and I was doing my Nick Cage expressions for no apparent reason.
He has, he has, he has. I guess been I guess you've been like inhabited by Nick Cage because you watched nothing but Nick Cage movies yesterday, was it?
Well, one movie, which he was great in, but the movie wasn't great. But you get a solid Nick Cage performance, so he gives his all, even to crappy movies that he signs on for. But anyway,
Yeah.
today on this glorious episode in 2023, this is gonna be horrible.
He has to take over because he has the format.
We're doing versus mode. Wes Craven versus John Carpenter, the ultimate master of horror. Who's
Who is?
going to own
Yeah.
that title? Yeah.
Who's gonna come out on top?
So I don't know. It's if you go by early work, I would say Carpenter, but we're gonna do it all. So we're gonna start with the early work.
Yep.
I guess we'll start off with Carpenter. He did Sodom Precinct 13.
What? That came out what year?
Well, I mean, if you want to go by year, okay, we can start with Wes Craven because he did Last House on the Left, 1972. Yeah.
Okay. 1972.
Which I'll never watch again.
Well, Last House on the Left. So Wes Craven. First of all, you got to start doing other films, but we're not going to talk about those films. But his first Last House on the Left kind of was that exploitation phase of horror, and shock cinema that you had at that time frame with that, and would you consider? Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out a few years later, right?
2 years 75? Later, yeah. 74.
74. So I guess we would say Wes probably kicked it off then with that type of shock type of horror. Because Last House on the Left is by far a very shocking film.
Oh, it's shocking. I felt like I was watching an actual rape go down, and I just will never watch it again. Yeah, I think it's a very good film. I just can't stomach that. Yeah, I prefer the remake because it's an entertaining film and it doesn't feel real.
Yeah. So with Last House on the Left, like they came out 72. Mm-hmm. The premise of that film was a couple of girls were on their way to I think a concert or something like that.
I think so.
Or some type of show, and stopped off to get. I want to say maybe drugs. I'm not sure. I don't remember everything. I've only seen it once, like you said. I've only seen it once, and I vaguely remember. I remember the R word happening. The SA. Well, because you can get this trigger for people. So the SA assault, the S assault, SA happened. And the R's, it was pretty bad. But then the killers end up at the house of the parents, and the parents get their revenge. It kicked off that revenge type of film that was later followed up by I Spit on Your Grave and other things like that. But yeah, man, it was brutal. But Wes came out swinging, though, I would guess.
He definitely came out swinging. And I guess then it was Sodom Precinct 13, which I think is 74. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, technically he had.
I mean, he did do another movie, but
his first major. Yeah, his first major, because Assault. He had before this, he has that little film, the student film that he
Yeah.
made. That he turned into like a feature length film um, about about I've never seen it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never seen that one. The one that's in space. And
Yeah.
then there's a Legend of Bronco Billy or something like that. I don't know. I've never seen that one either. But I call myself a Carpenter fan, right? But I've never seen those. But I can honestly, I think I've seen a lot of West stuff.
A
Because,
lot
but
of
I think, yeah,
wow. That's shocking to me that you have seen more Wes than Carpenter, and you're
yeah. I
the
mean, I've never
Carpenter
seen,
guy. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Like early, like his very early stuff that the diehards be like, oh, I've seen everything. I can honestly say I've never seen his Elvis film, which you've seen.
hmm
Uh, I've
I
never
own.
seen. Yeah, I've never seen the Bronco Billy or I can just look it up. Um, but Assault on Precinct 13 was shocking in its own right because it shows like a child getting killed, you know, which and the girl was like a Disney actress, and so he really was saying I'm killing Disney. Is what he was trying to say. But which one's the better movie of those two? Would you say Assault or would you say House?
I would say House, Last House on the Left, for me.
Oh wow. Hmm. I've
For
seen
me,
Assault more than I've seen House on the Left, Last House on the Left. But I will go and say Assault on Precinct 13 is the better of those two films. Uh, but it's not saying that Last House on the Left is a bad film. It's just a very hard film to watch.
it
It's
is.
one. It's like, yeah.
It's one film I would never see again, guaranteed. You couldn't get me to watch it again. I just couldn't. But up next, this is gonna be easy. Even though I do love what Wes did with this, The Hills Have Eyes. Um, but it's going up. I mean, we're gonna do it that way. It's going up against Halloween, so they don't have a chance. But I really did what I did like what Wes did here. I've only seen it once, but I was very captivated with the story he was telling about these people going on vacation and they've been targeted. You know,
Uh,
um, go
Dark
ahead.
Star, by the way, the
Dark.
movie I remember from Carpenter. That like this is a student film they made into like a feature length film. Never seen it whatsoever. I heard good things. I've just never seen it. But between the ones that you're mentioning, Halloween and the Hills Have Eyes,
Yeah.
both of them are heavyweight. Both of them
Yeah.
are heavyweight films. I think the Hills Have Eyes is so. That's one of those movies where I would venture to say that the original is better than the remake of it. I would venture to say that. Although they made the remake more grittier and things like that, it was following the Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of thing,
Yeah.
or did it come before that?
A year after, I believe.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This came a year after TCM,
You talking about the original or the remake?
the remake.
Yeah, the remake was 2007. And I
And
think their TCM came out 2006. Or maybe it was a
okay,
little bit before that, but
okay. So, but it was that one that kind of shaped where they where the industry, what the genre was going at the time, right?
yeah.
Okay. But with the original, The Hills Have Eyes, I think that like it felt isolated.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very. It could at some points it's kind of all over the place, but it felt. But you can't deny the horror that's in that film, and there's some scenes in there that was really Wes was on something back then. There were some scenes in there that was that. But if you compare that to Halloween, Halloween is more iconic.
Oh, no doubt. I was watching Halloween on Halloween, and it's when you think I don't know. I consider it a slasher movie, but I don't because it's a slow burn, and there's not a big body count. When you think of slasher films, you think of a body count, but it was just a really slow burn, and I think that's why it's so memorable and why Jamie Lee is so beloved, because you actually got to know who Laurie Strode was through this whole picture. In most slasher films, you don't really get to know who the character really is. You just know they're just trying to survive the night. Mm-hmm. But with Laurie, you actually really got to know her. You got to know all of them, and because it was such a slow burn, no one got killed. I don't think until like close to an hour in. And you actually got to know the characters.
Yeah, I'll also say that with knowing the characters, that you also actually cared about the characters. You cared about Laurie and Nancy and what's the other PJ Souls character?
I can't think of it.
But yeah, you cared about him. Even the boyfriends you didn't care so much about. But yeah, the girls that actually was getting hunted by Michael, you cared about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and plus it has atmosphere. It feels when you look at other movies that take place on Halloween night, you measure them against Halloween because Halloween felt like Halloween. The another film that I felt like Halloween, like that night of Halloween was I would say Trick or Treat. It felt like Halloween. So yeah, it wins between those two films. Not taking anything away from Hills Have Eyes, but it wins. I give it to Halloween.
I mean, you kind of have to. If we're going that way, okay, we have a toss up, but with Assault on Precinct 13 and Last House on the Left. But yeah, we both agree Halloween easily, and in my opinion, easily defeats Hills Have Eyes. Even though I think Hills Have Eyes is a great movie, it's just I consider Halloween. I think it's top 5 horror slasher films ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even horror films ever made. So that was the early work of them. Then we're going to get into the 80s, which is the heyday, I think. Well, I don't know if it's the heyday for Wes. I think he did a lot of good stuff in the 90s. But it is the heyday of John Carpenter. John Carpenter could not be touched in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. And then also, we can't, before we get there, I got to say this about Hills Have Eyes. Wes Craven was wanting to essentially destroy what it meant to be a family in America, what the dynamic of a family is. And that's why he had a family, like a blue-collar family encounter essentially hillbillies in the hills. What's the term? I forget the name of the term. It's a term when they say like explosion, like a bomb, nuclear family. It's the word I was looking for. Nuclear family. And Hills Have Eyes is based off a true story. A real family that lived in like Ireland, or something like that, back in like the way before there's like back when there's buggies and horses and stuff. That literally would pick off people on the road and eat them and cannibalize them and steal their stuff. It's just like it's crazy that existed, and but that's the influence for Wes's film, The Hills Have Eyes. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, now on my list here, Carpenter has 2 extra films. So,
okay,
we'll start with The Fog, which came out in 1980. John Carpenter, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do appreciate the film. I appreciate the story he was trying to tell, and I do like the fog aspect of it.
You know,
What comes out in the fog kills you. I like that. I just didn't like what was actually in the fog.
yeah, pirates.
Yeah, I didn't. I prefer the mist when it comes to that aspect.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That John Carpenter's Fog felt like a Stephen King short for some reason. It felt like a Stephen King type of film because it gave me vibes of King. But and it's a small coastal town like a King stuff would be. It felt like him leaning into like a King type of novel, but in a film. But I agree with you. Fog is one of the weakest Carpenter films, in my opinion. And I know that's probably like blasphemous to say to some people, but I honestly don't. I never really liked the Fog. Yeah, we have Jamie Lee in it. Yeah, we have. Is it
Tom Atkins?
Tom Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
We have Tom Atkins. We had Carpenter elements, but it just, for me, it just
didn't hit.
Yeah, it didn't hit. It didn't hit. There's better movies that deal like The Mist. Even though it came out years later, is it's a far more superior film than.
I think so.
Yeah.
Just the characters, what's in the Mist. Just it was really well directed, and it. Frank Durbant, I think that's his last name, Durbant, did a really good job. If people don't know who he is, he produced the Walking Dead first few seasons. The better seasons for most people.
That makes so much sense by the cast that we have.
Yeah.
In the Mist. It's pretty much a Walking Dead.
Yeah, it was several characters, castmates from The Walking Dead, but going up against the Fog, we got Swamp Thing, which I don't remember if I've seen this or if it's a sequel. Yeah, Wes Craven did Swamp Thing.
Oh, well. Actually.
I know you own it.
Yeah.
I've seen it in your house.
I love Swamp Thing.
I love the character, but I don't remember if I watched the original movie directed by Wes Craven.
82, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because it stars Carpenter's wife at the time, Adrienne Barbeau. So that's hilarious.
Wasn't she also in The Fog?
Yeah, she was, wasn't she?
Wasn't she like the DJ?
She was the DJ in The Fog.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I forget about that. But yeah, man, Swamp Thing's a better movie. If that's the competition, I gotta give it to West because Swamp Thing is an iconic character in itself.
Yeah.
And I love, even though it didn't last, I love the show that they came out with years later.
I did too.
And I love the horror element. It felt like John Carpenter. It felt like Carpenter. It's crazy, ain't it? But it felt like The Thing, but like in Swamp Thing form. But yeah, man, I'm gonna give it to Swamp Thing. I'm giving the West in this. But also, I will honestly say that I don't remember if, like, the things I'm thinking about Swamp Thing. I don't know if I'm thinking about Swamp Thing or Return of Swamp Thing. Because
I've seen the one with Heather Locklear, but I don't think this is that one.
I think it's Return. One of them had like two kids in it, like a black kid and a white kid, I think. I think it's Return of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I think so. But it's been forever since I've seen it. But I just remember the character. It was the first time I ever seen the character. And I was like, man, he looks so awesome. As a kid, I mean, I was drawn to this creature, this thing that lives in the swamp. And I was so drawn to it. Had no idea it was a comic book character, nothing like that. I just remember watching I think it was on USA, like early 90s. And I was I was so drawn to that. And so I don't think I've actually seen this movie, so I can't really pick. But we'll just move on to Wes's next movie, which is Hills Have Eyes 2, which I refuse to believe he directed because it's just atrocious. It steals the score from Friday the 13th. I mean, it felt like anything but Wes Craven. I don't know if you've seen it, but
What is it?
The Hills Have Eyes 2.
No, I've never seen that one.
It's got one of the actors from Friday the 13th as well. The Nick from New Blood. He's in it.
Okay.
It was horrible. It was. The girl that lived in the first one returned, but it made no sense. It's one of those sequels. I compare it to Fright Night 2. Makes no sense. It's like they're trying to say the events of the first movie really didn't happen. And
I hated.
Okay.
Do maybe did something like that. It just I hate. Yeah, Friday Night 2 is butt. It's butt. It's terrible. It
is.
It
once. I mean, it was pretty bad. And, you know, I've never been the biggest Fright Night fan, but that original movie, I really appreciate it more and more when I watch it. But that sequel was pretty awful. But Hills Have Eyes 2 goes up against John Carpenter's Escape from New York. And
wait a minute.
You having issues? Well,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you. I barely see you.
My headphones just died for some reason. Give me a moment. Audio.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh no, it's speakerphone. It's cool. It's weird. All right.
We got a message from Walsh. Greetings and blessings, brothers. Greetings.
What now?
Walsh. I'm assuming it's one of your friends.
Oh,
I didn't know
what's up, Walsh?
Since...
What's up, bro? I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm having headphone problems. Give me a moment.
Oh. So can you hear me now? No.
All right. Yeah, I'm about to get it. Give me a moment.
Okay.
Now it's connected.
Okay.
It says.
And now I lost you.
Brandon?
I barely
Can you
hear
hear me?
you. I hear you now.
All right. Yeah, it was crazy. All right, I'm back.
Okay, so Carpenter's next film was Escape from New York. I mean, look, I'm not the biggest Escape fan of either one now, since I revisited LA this year. But I think New York is the better film. It's the more popular film. It's really, in my opinion, even though I loved Elvis, and I didn't mention Elvis because it's just a TV movie, this is really what put Kurt Russell on the map, in my opinion, was playing Snake. And I love seeing Tom Atkins return to a Carpenter film, but I just don't think Carpenter is good at action.
Yeah.
Did that hurt your feelings? Because I don't want to hurt your feelings or any Carpenter fan. I mean,
No, you can hurt my feelings. No, I agree. You know what? I remember Escape from LA more than I do Escape from New York. And it's sad because I know that New York is the better film, but I know Donald Pleasence is in it, but I don't remember much of it. So I would. What's Wes Craven's film around this time?
He did Hills Have Eyes 2. Then the next one he did was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, Nightmare wins clearly. Wes Craven definitely got the horror films. I agree with you. Yeah, Wes is the man as far as I think Nightmare on Elm Street is obviously, if not the most iconic horror film, it is one of the least, one of the most iconic horror films as far as like creating a character that is still popular today. People still clamor to see films about if done right. Um, and I think that I think that it gave us one of the best final girls in a
Oh
film
yeah.
in Heather Langenkamp and Nancy. Um, I think that uh,
Gave us Johnny Depp.
gave us Johnny Depp. Yeah, it just and it's just a better film. It's a better
Yeah,
film.
I
Like
agree. Um, and I'm not the biggest Freddy fan, but I do absolutely love Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. And it's funny because when I first watched it, I didn't like it, but more every time I've revisited it, I mean, I was like, man, Wes was so ahead of his time. He he created the ultimate boogeyman in Freddy, and the reason I think Freddy became, I won't say as big as he became, but reason you could revisit and creatively revisit Freddy is because he attacks you in your dreams. You
hmm
know, with Jason, and everybody knows me knows I love Jason. Jason's my guy, but there's only so many times you can go to Camp Crystal Lake, or
yeah,
there's only so many times you can go to Haddonfield. You know, creatively,
yeah,
I mean, you can always go, but creatively to give us a reason for another movie. With Freddy, though, all you got to do is fall asleep.
yeah,
He's there. You know, I think it's brilliant, really, on Wes's part that
yeah, yeah.
he
We
did.
because we mentioned Halloween. Uh, and if you're gonna pit those two against each other, Michael and I say if you pit Michael and um, Jason, not Jason, but Freddy against one another, honestly, the scarier one will, and I'm talking about the very first Nightmare on Elm Street. I would say Freddy's scarier. Freddy's even between him and Michael. I think Freddy's scarier in the sense of like the whole idea is you can't escape him. You can run from Michael or you can escape him, but you can't. You gotta fall asleep sometime. you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, you do.
and then
You've seen
if,
one
if
Jason movie. You've seen them all.
ooh Brandon, your thoughts? See, Brandon's the Jason guy.
Yeah. I can't argue it because I just said you can only go to Camp Crystal Lake so many times. And when you don't go to Camp Crystal Lake, you put him on a boat. And if you don't do that, you send him to hell. I mean,
Send him to
you,
space.
you run out of ideas. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I see the point, but I love going back and watching
Well,
Jason just kill helpless people at Camp Crystal Lake.
but with that same thought, like they never take Michael out of Haddonfield in the sense of it's where he's always
Except for
doing.
H2O, where he finally
Yeah,
went out.
he went to California. Mike was in
Yeah.
Cali.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it's true though. Most cases you don't take these iconic killers out of their comfort zone, but with Freddy, he's in your dreams. So, that's the appeal, I think, that why he's still beloved, because
yeah,
he can take you out no matter where you are, and because he's in your dreams, you can't escape
yeah,
that.
and I would say that also with Freddie, like so he became more comedic. The second one, which Wes only directed the first one, and he produced New Nightmare, I think, right?
No, he directed New Nightmare as
He
well.
directed New. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
not, it's further down.
okay, my bad. But yeah, but Wes with Nightmare on Elm Street, he created a a character that I would argue is a stronger villain than Boogeyman rather than Michael. And I love Michael, and that's sad because I just I don't know maybe like Michael Mike, and think about it this time, Michael, because what Halloween 2 came out 82, 83,
82,
uh, 82.
81, 82.
All
One
right,
of
what is
those.
it? What if Freddy uh, infiltrated a serial killer's dreams? That would be interesting. Like I would love to see Freddy versus uh, Leatherface. That'd be interesting. Freddy versus Leatherface. Um, Maybe not as interesting. I think Freddy versus Hellraiser. Wow, who wins?
Well, I'm
Hellraiser
cheering for Freddy. I think I hate Penny. What is his name?
had.
Pinhead. I almost called him
What,
Pennywise.
what about Freddy versus Pennywise?
That's very similar. I mean, they are similar.
They are very
I remember
similar.
watching when it got remade into a
Uh,
theatrical film. I remember watching that and thinking this could be the new Freddy for
yeah, I felt
modern. How he attacks the innocents. You know,
same man.
Freddy
Uh,
versus. Is that the DC character or is?
yeah, or the comic book character. Because when I think of Sandman, I'm gonna be honest with you. I immediately think of the ECW wrestler. I don't think you mean that when they drinks beers and has a Kindle stick. But it would also be very interesting to see. but
But
what's
yeah,
next?
I mean,
Oh,
Wes did a fantastic job creating a horror icon. He would later on do another fantastic job in creating one. But for Carpenter, next is 82, The Thing, which is my favorite horror movie of all time. I've I honestly cannot put anything
hmm
up against it. I mean, what he did there was just brilliant. This was Carpenter at his best.
hmm
Um, you know, I love the idea though. You don't know who this alien being is in, and you have to test the blood.
hmm
And I love that. Plus, being isolated the way they are in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
And Antarctica. Is it? I'm not sure which one it is, but just they're isolated. There's no help coming. They're trapped in the snow with this creature that can transform or can get into you, and you wouldn't even know it, man. And I just love it.
Yeah.
I wish they made monster movies like this today, but they just don't, and they don't even try. But yeah, I mean, The Thing is just brilliant in my opinion.
So
Like
you
it's
revisited this for your horror
yeah,
view,
I revisited. I mean, I loved it just as much. I mean, it never gets old.
and it has a stellar cast with Kurt,
Yeah,
Wilford Brimley, Keith David,
yeah,
uh, Mauser, T.K. Carter. Uh, there's other people in there, but Donald Moffat. It has like it's very psychological because you don't know who to trust. Um, it's just one of those movies that I agree with you. It is, in my opinion, the best. It's the only 5-star Carpenter film that's ever been made.
yeah.
And I say that,
The
huh?
only 5 star.
The only 5-star Carpenter film that's been made. Yeah, I don't think Halloween's a 5-star film. It's probably 4. But I think The Thing is a 5-star perfect
Yeah,
film. Whitlow's living in his car now. Yep. Yeah, I was supposed to have people come over, and I figured I'd just do it in the car. Uh,
but okay. I think this is one of your favorites from Carpenter as well. 1983's Christine, Stephen King's adaptation. Maybe it's not one of your favorites. I thought it was.
well, I love the car. I don't so much love the movie.
Oh,
But
so it's not. I've been
yeah,
wrong all this time.
yeah, I love the car. I love the vehicle. I think that it's very corny. The like, I refuse to let a car kill me. as I'm in the car. Hopefully, it doesn't slow down. But yeah, no, but yeah, I think that I thought it had very great atmosphere. The soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks. And Carpenter does an excellent job directing it. It had atmosphere. It's just that I, it would probably be like a if I had to rate it, I give it three. Three on the on that on the mark I meter. I think
I
that
liked it. I liked it a little bit more than that, but
it gets about like a 4 or 3.5. Or give it more.
no, it's not perfect, but I think it's a four, solid four. I've never read the book, so I don't know how faithful it is to the book, but it felt like a Carpenter machine. As far as what he would do cinematography wise, and
Mm-hmm.
the car that comes alive. It's basically it's a love. It's a romantic relationship between this man and this car.
Yeah.
When you
So
really think about it, it really is. Anything that harms this boy, the car kills,
it's
and he gets very
and
jealous. You know.
uh, Christine is good. Actors weren't the best. Is good rather. Actors weren't the best for that movie, especially Keith Gordon. It's
And
awful.
that's the dude from Jaws 2, right? The lead.
Yeah, yeah, that's the lead.
Yeah, I thought
Um,
he did better in Jaws 2,
you know,
personally.
I would say if they was remake it with the kid that was in that new Halloween film. Uh, but oh, they did, didn't they? It's called Halloween Ends. Um, but yeah, you know, it was good. What did Carpenter? What did Craven have around this point?
Uh, I'm not sure if he had Serpent and the Rainbow, which I've never seen personally. So
Christine will probably be the better film. Let's see.
but he also directed 5 episodes of Twilight Zone. But like I've never seen the Twilight Zone, so I can't really talk about that. So if you've seen the episodes, maybe you can talk about it.
No, I've never seen that. I'm trying to see because I was thinking about maybe I can pick Serpent and Rainbow next week. Um, it has Bill Pullman in it. It was. I don't recall it as much as I wish I did. But I think that it was. It's more. It's more psychological. It's like you don't know what's up and what's down. Essentially,
Yeah,
it deals with voodoo and Haitian culture. But I just don't really recall a lot of it, man. Honestly, but I can't. So I can't. I can't honestly say. Let's see. Was Russ Craven 83 movie was Revenge of the Dead?
I didn't see that on his list.
I've never seen Revenge of the Dead. I never knew that existed. But yeah.
But
Um,
up
if
next
I had
for
between those two, I had to go Christine because it's more iconic.
well, Wes Craven only did one more film in the '80s, and it was 1989. Shocker, and I know you hate that movie. I
Yeah.
liked, I liked it enough. I love the idea that the dude just kept coming back, like body hopping.
Yeah, this wasn't Wes Craven. Revenge of the Dead is Pupi Avati. Never even heard of this movie.
I mean,
All right. Yeah, okay.
but
Um, The
and
Shocker.
like, yeah, I love the body hopping aspect to this guy that was on death row that got shot to death, but he
He did
didn't
it better
die.
than he did it better. They did it better than Jason Goes to Hell. I would agree with
Oh,
that.
yeah. I I literally cannot defend Jason Goes to Hell. I do love the heart eating aspect because I never. Why would you do that? Why would
Mm-hmm.
you put Jason Voorhees' heart in your mouth and eat it? Why would you put a heart in your mouth anyway?
Yeah.
I love that aspect of that movie, like because it was something I literally had never seen before. But everything else was just kind of ridiculous and pointless. Uh, it was just awful. But Up next for Carpenter was like
Yeah, plus,
Starman.
all right, Starman's a better film if I'm gonna choose between those. Honestly, Starman is the better film. It's just actually, and it's Carpenter not doing horror. He's wanting to
Yeah.
go. He flirts with it a little bit, but it's more sci-fi. But I thought that it was a really heartfelt film. It was like E.T. but with a person essentially. It was interesting. It was interesting. It was ahead of its time. I think Starman's the better film. I would give it maybe 3.5 markouts out of 5. Yeah.
And he did Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, and I know one of your favorites, They Live, in to end his 80s.
Okay.
Uh,
Of those, uh,
I would say
Vic,
They Live is the best. I hadn't
yeah,
seen Prince of Darkness though, so I don't even know what that's about. But
it's literally about it.
I'm assuming it's about Satan, but since it's got Prince
Yeah,
of Darkness, but
and it
I
has
didn't.
the Alice Cooper in it. I think
What?
uh, Alice Cooper's in the movie.
Wow. I didn't. I know Donald Pleasance was in it, and it's kind of my interest in watching it. But see him work with Carpenter again, but I never have watched it, and I was
Yeah,
not a fan of Big Trouble in Little China. I don't get it. I've never gotten that movie. It's
I,
just bizarre to
it,
me.
I like the movie in a sense of if I got to choose between all three of those, I would say They Live is the better film. But Prince of Darkness was it's one of those movies that it I remember it. I don't remember a lot of aspects of it, but I'm there for Donald Pleasant. Um,
Yeah,
Big Trouble, I'm there for Kurt. Um, but it's not Kurt's enough to keep it entertaining, but it's kind of all over the place.
yeah.
Uh,
I thought it was all over the place.
um, but then They Live is by far it's a masterpiece of a Carpenter film. I would say I would give that one actually four markouts out of 5. I think that it was fun. Like I, I want it made me want more Roddy Piper as an actor. I thought he
Yeah,
was fun. Him and Keith David worked well together. It has one of the worst endings. Carpenter doesn't have always the best of endings and stuff, but um,
maybe that's why he kinda is compared to Stephen King
hmm,
with the
maybe
endings.
yeah,
I mean, I can see the comparison. I mean, they've always said Carpenter's the best when it comes to horror
mhm,
films, and Stephen King's the best when it comes to fiction, writing horror. So, I mean, but yeah, I would agree with you. They Live, from what I've seen of those last three movies, where it was the better film, better concept too, in my opinion.
yeah,
I love aliens, so I'm there for that. Plus, you throw
mhm,
in Roddy Piper making his starring debut. I don't think it was his film debut, but maybe it was. I don't remember if this came before Body Slam or not, but either way, he did a fantastic job. And like you, I wanted more Roddy in mainstream Hollywood, and we didn't really get that.
yeah.
But he is memorable in this movie. But now we're going to move on to the 90s, and where I say this is where Wes really came into his own as far as kind of going past Carpenter, because Carpenter
Yeah,
started to slow down a lot.
yeah,
And maybe he got out of touch. And
yeah.
we will explain, if we both agree on this, why. But 1990, Wes Craven did People Under the Stairs.
Which is, in my opinion, um, have you ever seen it?
I've seen it once, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. But I think if I revisit it with fresh eyes, I would really appreciate it more.
Yeah,
I
I
was.
liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I liked it because Wes. First of all, this is Wes trying to do like a movie that it has black folks in it, which is which that's for us. We don't Black people don't really see themselves in horror other than as like
The first victim.
first victims. Yeah, and so to have a movie where we're kind of like showcased is excellent. So I loved I loved it. Yeah, it's fun. Wes I think Wes knocked it out of the park. It's not a perfect film, but it was fun. It was a fun time.
And I'm not. I think it was 1992. John did Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase, which
It
I
was
actually really appreciate.
yeah, I liked it. I liked it.
You know,
Yeah,
uh,
I would,
just Carpenter doing Invisible Man for me. That's he's doing one of the Universal monsters. Then you throw in Chevy Chase as the Invisible Man, where I felt I was expecting a straight up comedy, really silly, goofy, because it's Chevy Chase. But from what I remember of the movie, I've only seen it once. It had some comedy in it, but Chevy did a really good job. I felt he showed his acting chops in this. It wasn't the silly, goofy the guy I remember from Vegas, not Vegas, but Christmas Vacation.
and Daryl Hannah's in it as well. She does a great job. Um, yeah, I liked it. It's one of my favorite Carpenter films. Actually, it'd be if I had to give a top five, it would be in there. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites. Like
I
I'm not just saying this. I really enjoyed it. I've always liked that movie. I always
yeah,
look forward to it coming on HBO and stuff. So
yeah. And then he did Body Bags. Well, he did a segment for it.
yeah,
It was a Toby Hooper, I think, did most of the directing, but
yeah.
Carpenter did come in, and I didn't hate the movie, but I liked Carpenter's segment. I really did. But it was an anthology film. And I even like Carpenter in the movie. Like he's like the coroner. So I like that. Um, I feel like it wanted to be Creep Show. Like I haven't seen the original Creep Show, but I felt that's what they were going for.
You've never seen the original Creep Show?
No, I've seen two. I've read the comic, but I haven't.
You're weird, bro. I love you though, but
But I haven't seen the original
if
movie.
you've never seen the original one, which it's not screaming nowhere, I would choose it because that's enough for me.
Did you like Body Bags, or did you like the segment that John directed?
I don't really remember a lot of Body Bags, to be honest. I remember John being a mortician, but that's all I can remember. I think West wins in this
He
case.
definitely wins because he changed the game a little bit when it comes to meta.
Yeah,
but not with Scream. Not with Scream.
Okay.
With New Nightmare, he changed.
So New Nightmare came up next.
Yeah, Nightmare came out 1994. This is personally my favorite Nightmare film. I love the original, but there's something I felt was special about New Nightmare, getting the original actors to return. Well, Heather and John Saxon returned.
Mm-hmm.
And just making Freddy real.
Yeah,
that was special.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. I never thought we would live in a before that came out, even before I knew what the storyline was. I never thought we would live in a world where Freddy's real. Robert Englund's playing himself, but also playing Freddy.
Yeah, I would say this. I would give it personally. I would go Nightmare on Elm Street. I go 4, and then I'll go New Nightmare. Those are my favorite ones out of all of them. Because I felt 4 did something that it makes Freddy gave him that little bit of an edge. But New Nightmare, it made him scary again, and it was really it was good, man. It was a good film. It's really ahead of its time.
It was. Then he went on to do in 1995. He went on to do Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy, which I know a lot of people give crap to, but Eddie Murphy was playing a vampire. And
Have you ever seen it?
I've seen it. I liked it at the time. I've only seen it once back in '95, so I don't really recall much of it. But I remember Eddie with the long hair and playing this vampire, and I actually quite enjoyed it. But I never knew Wes Craven directed till I looked it up earlier. I was like, he directed
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Wes was in his pocket, man. That's what I love. That's what I love about Wes is he wasn't afraid. Wes and I think Wes is not afraid to go outside the box a little bit more
Yeah.
than John, in my opinion.
And then John's next film was Village of the Damned. Now I
We
remember this like came out on Stars, I believe. I remember all kinds of spots for Stars. I can't say I've seen it all the way through, but I remember thinking that this was his version of like Children of the Corn when I was watching it for the first time,
yeah,
which I don't know if I finished or not.
yeah.
But
It's a remake
also
of
kind of,
an old film. So
yeah. Is it kind of like also because I don't know what was with the kids behaving like that? Was it kind of like Invasion of Body Snatchers as well?
it was like something happened where all the women got pregnant all at the same time. I forgot. I seen the original and I seen the remake. The remake had Christopher Reeves in it, which is pretty awesome, and
Yeah,
Christy Allen's in it as well.
yeah. I thought she
Uh,
was.
and Mark Hamill's in it. Oh, Mark Hamill, I gotta give him props. I just recently watched Follow the House of Usher, and he kills it. He kills it in that show. Uh, I give um, what's his name? Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
He does really good with atmosphere. He's so it's not his best film, it's not his best series. Still, Haunted of Hill House is the best, but this is up there. But Mark Hamill's in it, man, as the attorney. He's so good. He's so good. I love his stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
But I didn't know what was actually responsible for the kids being the way they were. I just remember Christopher Reeve was like the hero of the movie, but I just never really remembered or understood what was really going on with the kids and why they were
Uh,
so evil.
yeah,
But I don't think I finished it either. So
uh, I, as far as this time frame, I give it to West because New Nightmares, and that's what's kind of up against right here, right?
well, no, it's Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire Brooklyn, yeah, well, it still gets beat because Vampire Brooklyn is you have Eddie Murphy, you have Angela Bassett. It's just a better film,
Yeah.
and it's something I will go back and watch again. Nobody's watching Village of the Damned again.
1996, slashers changed when Wes Craven, directed Scream, and the biggest line for many years, "What's your favorite scary movie?" happened. It changed everything. It changed everything in horror in '96. I mean, not just slashers. I mean, he changed the game. He made a slasher movie meta,
Mm.
and even though it's a lot of people have said that he was kind of making fun of horror films, I never have got that he was actually making fun of them.
Yeah, no.
I thought he was kind of just playing with the circumstances, especially when F. Campbell says that I don't like horror films. The always the big breast that goes up the stairs instead of out the front door. Like
Yeah,
I felt he was just having fun with the genre, not
yeah.
actually making fun of it. I don't think he would do that since this is what he's best known for.
I think
But
West was West was West is he's an inventor and reinventor.
yeah, he
Uh,
reinvented himself with this one, no doubt.
yeah, like if you think about slashers, he reinvented it with from the boring slashers, if you will. Because Michael, if you think, is a bit of a boring slasher. He reinvented it with Freddy.
Yeah,
And Freddy became a little bit more like provocative and like just like
yeah,
creepier. And then like he reinvented it again with Ghostface. He just like he he's able to just like look at the wheel and say, well, what if we do this instead of this? And what if we do this? And then it just becomes something totally different. And so, in my opinion, like Scream is by far the best slasher movie of all time.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
Period. It's a 5 star, 5 mark out, best slasher film of bar none, completely.
Yeah, I agree. Then Carpenter in '97 brought Snake back with Escape from L.A.,
Yeah, no,
which I liked originally. But I
yeah,
went to
but
revisit it this year. Oh my God, it was atrocious. It was so bad. Now Kurt's good in the movie, but everything else was just really bad. And
yeah,
this is why I kind of feel that Carpenter in the '90s just kind of lost touch with what was in and what was
yeah,
good. He
yeah.
kind of lost touch with
I
reality,
got
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to speak too ill of him. I am a fan of John Carpenter, but he just something wasn't clicking in the '90s with him. As Aaron is waving at somebody.
waving at my kid. But yeah, I agree. But no, yeah, L.A. is for a time when I first watched it. I had fun with it, but
Yeah.
I know it's just corny. But go ahead. What we have next?
Well, then John came back with Vampires, which I loved
I
at
hate
the
it.
time.
I always hate it. I've never liked that movie. Never, absolutely never liked that movie ever,
I thought
ever.
what he was going for was he wanted the tone of From Dusk Till Dawn,
Mm-hmm.
but the only person I believe in that movie has that tone is James
It's
Woods.
James. Yeah, I
He's
agree.
great in the movie. I
James Woods great.
revisited it. He's still great, but everybody else just feels out of place.
I think if
And
they would have remade that movie with like a Nick Cage, it might work. But James was good. James Woods was good in it, but he had that sarcastic type of attitude. You know,
well,
but
I replace
the vampire.
the vampire from Karate Kid 3 and Cobra
Who was
Kai,
who was that
Thomas
guy?
Ian Griffith. Replace
Yeah,
him with Nick Cage as the vampire. You back then, especially. Yeah, I mean that would have been a fun face-off. Not
yeah,
to
yeah,
mince
yeah.
words there, but that would have been a very fun face-off.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
um,
What we
but
got
that
next?
then it leads to Wes Craven doing Scream 2. Same year as Vampires. It's Scream 2. I mean
Scream
it.
two, Scream two, Scream
Yeah,
two, Scream two is a four star horror film. As far it's great. It's great. Like literally, there hasn't been a bad Scream movie. Even three isn't bad. And we discussed this.
yeah, we did.
We came to that conclusion that even Scream 3, which is the weakest of them all, isn't the worst. Isn't bad in itself.
No, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, Scream 2 easily beats Vampires. Then Wes finished off the '90s with 1999's Music of the Heart with Meryl Streep. He did a drama. Never
Never
seen it,
seen it. Never seen it.
but he got to work with Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
I mean,
Never seen it.
then we go to the year 2000. It's not even fair. Even though we said it's the weakest film, Wes did Scream 3 while John Carpenter did Ghost of Mars.
Oh, that movie's. You talk about butt. That movie's butt.
I
Uh,
liked it at the time because I was a big fan of Ice Cube. I was a huge fan of Natasha Henstridge, Pam Grier.
mhm.
It introduced me to Jason Statham, Clea
it, it,
Duvall.
it had a great cast. It
It
just
did.
like you said, John was out of touch. He didn't know where Wes had his post on the culture and on what is happening. John didn't.
Yeah.
John wanted to do what John wanted to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So then he finished off his career in 2010 with The Ward, which
I've never seen it. Never seen it.
it's so all over the place. I liked it originally, but then I revisited last year and I had a horrible time. And I thought, man, it's sad. It's sadness that he finished his film career there. But Wes went on to do Cursed, the werewolf movie, which most
I've
people
never seen
hate.
it.
But I think it's a fun movie. It had potential to be great, but they tried to make it Screamish. Then he went on to do Red Eye, which I actually really enjoyed. It was a thriller. Then he went on to finish off his career doing My Soul to Take, which I think is atrocious. And Scream 4 was his final film. He brought everybody back for one last ride.
Yeah.
Well, Carpenter, it was listed he has directed Suburban Screams, which is new, but you say it's more of a narration or?
Yeah, I think he narrates it, but he might have directed. I don't know. I didn't finish the first episode. I'm watching the first episode called Kelly, and it's just it's not enough to keep my interest.
So basically, what you're saying is pretty much after Memoirs of an Invisible Man, John Carpenter just lost it.
Yeah, honestly, if it'd be a better comparison of Who's the Master of Horror between West or the OG Master of Horror, I guess. Yeah, no, West. It would be West and Carpenter, but I would say Flanagan is kind of rising up. Juan is up there, but they're the newer school of guys. But West killed it, and he's not even alive no more. But West is still living on via screen. His essence is still there.
That's where we were going to close it with the tribute to Wes they did with the Scream reboot, which I thought was very touching that the people they got to come back. I mean, Drew came back, did a voice. Matthew Lillard returned as a voice. They got Skeet Ulrich to return as ghost Billy Loomis in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you got the original characters to come back from the first 4 movies. I feel there was a lot of love there in making that movie for Wes Craven. Despite what Neve Campbell says now, I do believe there was a lot of love and inspiration. They wanted to do him justice with that movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I was looking up something real quick. Yeah, I would agree. I think that they wanted to do it justice, and I love that they called the character West.
Yeah.
And so they was able to say for West. But real quick, Suburban Scream got a 19% on the tomato meter right now. I'm trying to find any type of nobody has reviewed it. It's just they've given the rating. It's how terrible it is. But yeah, it's like maybe let me see on. Better check the ratings of the individual episodes. I don't understand ratings of the season. It's 4.4. Someone says, but yeah, like maybe if you go by episodes, it might be different. But I don't know. Back to Wes. I think that Wes's legacy lives on, and every time they reinvent Ghostface a little bit more, it's them allowing Wes's spirit, if you would, to live on.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think with John, I think that the only thing that will truly save John Carpenter's legacy is going to be his legacy. He has made some great films, but the master of horror, in my opinion, is Wes Craven. I think Wes is the unadulterated, because the way he reinvented the wheel over and over again.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if we would have stopped at the 80s, I would have said Carpenter. hands down, after the 80s, because he was at the top of his game then. And I don't know what really happened. Maybe he just stopped caring. His heart was not in the movies in the 90s or the early 2000s or The Ward, which came out in 2010. So I agree. Overall, big picture, full body of work, I believe it is Wes Craven. As you said, he reinvented himself. He reinvented the genre. That's what he kept doing. And I don't know. I don't know who upcoming filmmakers are going to be inspired by. Are they going to be really inspired by Carpenter or Wes Craven? A little bit of everybody, I guess. But
maybe I would say, like, for instance, I think Flanagan. I would say Flanagan's obviously more inspired by King than anyone else.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Juan is probably inspired by
Carpenter.
I think Carpenter. I think the guy that did It. I think he was most definitely inspired by Craven because it felt like a Craven type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be one of those things like. But nobody's out here being inspired by Toby Hooper. But or maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm crapping on Toby.
I will give you one guy who I think was inspired by Toby Hooper's Texas
Rob
Chainsaw.
Rob Zombie.
I think that movie in particular inspired his whole catalog of movies. Because he loves that 70s feel, that dirtiness. I'm not a fan of him, but I do believe Toby Hooper inspired him greatly. So you got one guy out of that. But yeah, I mean, when you mentioned James Wan, I see Carpenter all over him because even the career path he's taken, he started in horror, but he wanted to branch out into action films and thrillers. But he does come back and do some other horror, but the difference is his heart is in it, where Carpenter's wasn't towards the end of his career. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Mike Flanagan. Probably the guy that's still doing horror today is Mike Flanagan. He's probably the top guy.
Yeah, I would say Flanagan and Juan is the top people out there. Then you have the A25 people, A24 rather people that are doing stuff like what's the guy? Oh, I give props to Ty West because he's doing horror.
Yeah.
His stuff feels like maybe he's inspired by Toby as well because his stuff kind of feels like, or maybe he's inspired by West. I'd be interested to hear his mindset on that. But he's good. Jordan Peele. I think Jordan is his own guy. He is his own thing. I can't put him as a comparison of this person or that person. If anyone, Spielberg. I guess you'll compare him to. Yeah.
He wants to. Well, I mean, he wants to invent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He wants. I don't want to say reinvent. Because I do think he wants to make original content in the genre. Yeah. Where I wouldn't say Spielberg is in horror, but I see a lot of Spielberg in Jordan Peele with especially Nope. I mean, you brought out the Jaws reference, but I see other films in that movie as well, like Close Encounters. I got a vibe from that as well. I've heard him talk about how much he loves Spielberg, so I think he was greatly inspired by Spielberg. And who wasn't? I mean, really, I mean, you grew up in the 80s, who wasn't inspired by Spielberg? But I mean, I'm interested to see where these guys go, though. I mean, I don't watch much Mike Flanagan stuff because he mainly does TV shows these days, but he will pop in a movie here and there. But I haven't seen a movie of his since Dr. Sleep. So I don't know if he's done one since then.
No, I don't think so. Dr. Sleep was Gerald's Game, but I don't know which one came first, that or Gerald's Game.
I want to say Dr. Sleep came after, but
yeah, I mean, I like Dr. Sleep. I thought that it was him paying homage to both Kubrick and Kubrick and Stephen King.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next realm of horror is just like, I can't wait to see who we have, who we can say, well, who's the best, But between the conversation between Carpenter and Craven, I'm gonna give the crown to Wes Craven as the king of horror. As the
You know, I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, but I thought when I first came up with it, I didn't think you would go against Carpenter. I said, well, he's not, he's going to be biased here. But it's good to see you evaluate everything, like the whole career. And, I know you're a big Halloween guy. I know you love The Thing. I thought you loved Christine.
yeah, but the thing is, man, I feel like, and that's the thing, maybe it's the bias here, is the way that they ended with Michael. And
he was involved in some way. He could have spoke up.
Yeah, they crapped on the legacy of Carpenter, essentially, and he's still alive, but he's like, just pay me. Whereas
that's all he wants.
Whereas even in death, they're saying let's honor Wes.
Yeah,
and that's powerful. You know how powerful that is. That they said, well, no, even though the man is dead, we're going to still make sure that his vision continues. And so, yeah, Wes Craven, hands down. This was a fun episode.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little hard to get through all of them, but I agree. I thought it was fun. I would love to do another duo of directors or even actors, honestly. But
yeah, we can do it. But
I'll let you pick it next time, though. We do something like this.
Okay. I will say for next week's episode, I plan on. I guess because of this, and you haven't seen it, so I'm interested to see your thoughts on it. We're gonna do People Under the Stairs.
Okay.
It's streaming on, I think, Craven.
All right, that works for me.
Yeah, but yeah, I figured I was gonna choose Swamp Thing because it's also streaming. But I was like, we'll do People Under the Stairs. Which I haven't seen Swamp Thing, the first one, in so long. I may still watch it, just kind of, why not? But People Under the Stairs is what I choose. What do we want people to do?
If you like this episode and you want to see more, click that like button, click that share button, subscribe to the Markout Movie Podcast channel on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, click like.
Comment. All right, well, in the meantime, in between time, Aaron Whitlow.
Brandon Spivey.
Thank you for marking out with us on the Markout Movie Podcast. You have a